The baby was coming at 30,000 feet. There was no doctor on board, no hospital in sight, and the terrified young woman was screaming as contractions shook her body. Then a quiet single father stood up from his seat, walked toward her, and said, "Look at me. I'm going to help you. You're not alone." But neither of them knew that this emergency birth would reveal a secret that had been hidden for nearly 20 years. If you enjoy emotional stories about kindness, second chances, and unexpected twists, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Daniel Carter had learned to stay calm when life became difficult. At 38, he was raising his 9-year-old daughter, Lily, alone. His wife had died 3 years earlier after a long illness, leaving Daniel with a broken heart and a child who still slept with her mother's old scarf whenever she missed her. Daniel worked as an electrical engineer and traveled often for his job. He wasn't rich, famous, or powerful. He was simply a tired father trying to give his daughter a good life. That evening, he boarded a flight from Chicago to Los Angeles with Lily sitting beside the window. "Dad, can I watch another movie?" Lily asked. "You've already watched 2. 3. Daniel smiled. "Exactly." Lily laughed and put on her headphones. A few rows ahead sat a young woman named Emma. She looked nervous from the moment she boarded. Her hands constantly rested on her stomach, and every few minutes she checked the time on her phone. Daniel noticed her but didn't think much of it. About 2 hours into the flight, Emma suddenly gripped the armrest. Her face turned pale. She took a deep breath. Then another. A few seconds later, she whispered, "Oh no." The woman beside her looked alarmed. "Are you okay?" Emma shook her head. "My water broke." Panic spread through the cabin. A flight attendant rushed over. "Ma'am, how far along are you?" 38 weeks. The attendant's expression changed instantly. She made an announcement asking if there was a doctor or medical professional on board. Nobody answered. Then Emma screamed. A contraction had hit her. Daniel looked at Lily. "Stay here, sweetheart." "Where are you going?" "I'll be right back." He walked toward the flight attendants. "I have some first aid training," he said. "I'm not a doctor, but I can help keep her calm." The senior flight attendant nodded desperately. "Please." Emma was moved to a more private area near the rear of the plane. Blankets were placed around her while the crew contacted emergency medical services on the ground. But the pilot gave them terrible news. They were still far from the nearest suitable airport. The baby wasn't waiting. Emma cried. "I can't do this." Daniel knelt beside her. "You can. You don't understand." "No," Daniel said gently. "But I understand being scared." Emma looked at him through tears. "My husband isn't here." Daniel paused. "Is there someone we can call?" Emma stared at her phone. "He left me." Her voice broke. "He said the baby wasn't his." Daniel's expression softened. He remembered the night Lily had been born. He remembered holding his wife's hand, terrified that something would go wrong. "You're not alone now," he said. Another contraction came. Emma screamed. Daniel held her hand. "Breathe. Just breathe. Look at me." Minutes passed. The cabin became strangely quiet. Dozens of passengers watched in stunned silence. At 30,000 feet above the earth, surrounded by strangers, Emma was fighting to bring her child into the world. Then the baby's head appeared. The flight attendant gasped. "She's coming." Daniel followed the instructions being relayed by the emergency medical team on the ground. "Easy," he said. "You're doing it." Emma pushed with everything she had. And suddenly, a tiny cry filled the airplane. Everyone froze. Then the cabin erupted in applause. Emma began sobbing. Daniel carefully wrapped the newborn in a blanket. "It's a girl." Emma reached for her. "Oh, my baby." She held the little girl against her chest and cried like she had been carrying the weight of the world alone. Daniel smiled. But then Emma looked at him. "What is your name?" "Daniel." She froze. Her face changed. Not surprise. Fear. "Daniel Carter?" Daniel frowned. "Yes." Emma's hands began trembling. "Your daughter, is she named Lily?" Daniel stared at her. "How do you know my daughter?" Emma looked toward Lily, who was standing nearby with the flight attendant. For several seconds, she couldn't speak. Then she whispered something that made Daniel's heart stop. "Because your wife knew my mother." Daniel felt the air disappear from his lungs. "My wife?" Emma nodded. "Her name was Sarah, wasn't it?" Daniel stepped back. Nobody had called his wife by her name in that voice for years. "How do you know Sarah?" Emma looked down at her newborn daughter. "Because Sarah saved my life." Daniel's mind raced. After the emergency landing, paramedics rushed Emma and the baby to the hospital. Daniel and Lily followed because Lily refused to leave the woman who had just given birth in front of them. Once Emma was stable, she asked Daniel to sit down. "I need to tell you something." Daniel folded his arms. "I think you do." Emma took a deep breath. "When I was 17, I ran away from home." She explained that her father had been violent and her mother had been too afraid to protect her. One rainy night, Sarah had found Emma sitting alone at a bus station. Sarah had taken her home. "She gave me food, clothes, a bed." Daniel listened silently. "She told me I could stay as long as I needed. She even helped me finish school." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He had known his wife was kind. But he had never known this. Emma continued. "Your wife didn't just help me. She protected me from my father." Then came the secret. Emma had eventually discovered she was pregnant. Terrified, she had left town. She believed she was protecting Sarah from more trouble. "But before I left," Emma said, "Sarah gave me a small envelope." Daniel's heart pounded. What was inside? A letter. Emma reached into her bag and pulled out an old, folded piece of paper. Daniel recognized the handwriting immediately. Sarah's handwriting. His hands trembled as he opened it. The letter said, "Emma, never believe that your past decides your future. If one day you have a child, love that child fiercely. And if you ever meet Daniel again, tell him I was proud of the man he became." Daniel couldn't continue reading. He covered his face. Sarah had known. She had known there was a young girl out there whose life she had changed. And she had never told him. "Why?" Daniel whispered. Emma answered through tears. "She didn't want you to think she had hidden something from you. She was afraid you'd worry about me. She wanted me to build my own life." Daniel stared at the letter. For years, he had believed he knew everything about the woman he had loved. But now he understood something painful. Sometimes the people we love carry secret battles because they don't want us to carry them too. Then Emma said something unexpected. "There is one more thing." Daniel looked up. "My daughter needs a name." Emma smiled weakly. "I was thinking. Sarah." Daniel's eyes filled again. Lily stepped forward. "Can I hold her?" Emma smiled. "Of course." Lily carefully held the tiny baby. "She has Mom's name," Lily whispered. Daniel looked at his daughter. Then at Emma. Then at the newborn. For the first time in years, the pain of losing Sarah didn't feel like an empty wound. It felt like a legacy. Months later, Emma's life had completely changed. She divorced the man who had abandoned her and stopped chasing someone who had refused to believe her. She found work, returned to school, and began rebuilding her life. Daniel never became her husband. He didn't need to. He became something far more valuable. Family. Emma and little Sarah became regular visitors at Daniel's home. Lily loved helping with the baby. And every year, on the anniversary of Sarah Carter's death, the four of them visited her grave. One afternoon, Emma stood before the gravestone holding baby Sarah's hand. "I wish she could see you," Emma whispered. Daniel stood beside her. "She would." Emma looked at him. "How do you know?" Daniel smiled through tears. "Because she always believed that kindness never disappears." Emma squeezed his hand. And Lily placed a small flower beside the grave. Years later, Emma would tell her daughter about the woman who saved her when she had nowhere to go. She would tell her about a single father who helped deliver her on an airplane. And she would tell her that sometimes the greatest miracles don't happen in hospitals. Sometimes they happen at 30,000 feet. Sometimes they happen when a stranger chooses to care. And sometimes, one act of kindness travels through generations before finally coming home. The lesson is simple: never underestimate the impact of kindness, because you may change someone's life without ever knowing it. And when life gives you a chance to help someone who is afraid, don't ask what you will gain, ask what they might become because you cared.